Hi again, everyone. We are back with another Eurythmics podcast. This is Rex Saldana.
And it's Mark Stevens.
All right. And this time we are here with our good friend, Steve Gayler.
Hi, everyone.
Say hi, Steve. Steve, as probably all Eurythmics fans know, is the webmaster of Ultimate Eurythmics Archives, which I believe has been around for how many? 22 years?
22 years now, yeah.
Yep. And it's the go-to place on the web for anything you want to find out about Eurythmics, anything. So check that out. And our topic today is going to be Eurythmics collectibles. And Steve,
you know,
collection. I know we all of us have large collections. Steve probably has the biggest one. And he was just telling us before we went online with the podcast how big his collection is. So, Steve, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, sure. Well, just purely from the record side, this is not the memorabilia side, which is another whole different story. But in our discography that we have online, we've got nearly 6,300 items in there now.
Say that again.
Nearly 6,300 items.
Yes, you heard that right.
The very first item that I put into the database was in 1991, because everything's date stamped. So I know, and the very first item that went into my database was was, believe it or not, a Spanish promo for "Here Comes the Rain Again" on 7-inch single. Why I chose that one as the first one, I have no idea, but that's what
it was at the top of a stack.
It must have been.
It was.
Yeah.
And Steve, you wrote an article in the 90s for Record Collector in the UK.
Yeah.
And that was probably around the same time you were launching the website, getting all that together.
Yeah, well, I was at university in 1989, and Record Collector had asked me to write this article, and I'd never written an article for a magazine ever before. I'm not even sure I fully remember how they knew me, but I was probably one of the only students who was lucky enough to have my own computer. And I wasn't studying IT or anything like that, but it became an interest and it became a hobby. And very quickly I realized I needed to start to write something to manage all of this data that I was bringing together. But it was only for my own use, really. That's all it ever was to make sure I didn't buy things twice at the record fairs. And I had a dot matrix printout of what I had in my database and what I had in my collection.
Oh my gosh, dot matrix! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's right. that was that was the only option really then. But this database has grown and grown and grown, and it is actually what drives the website. So I enter everything into my database here on it's an access database. And I run a report at the end of it, which extracts a file which says this is all the new stuff that's not been on the website before. And I import it, and all the pages and all the galleries get created automatically. So
So how often do you update? I mean, when's the last time that you updated something?
Well, the discography I tend to do once a month. So The latest items always appear on the homepage of the website as and when I do it. I'm not very good at telling people that's what I've done. I need to get better at doing that. I mean, even the Shakespeare Sister single that Dave is credited as the co-writer on, that's the latest entry on there because I scanned that in the office today. So, that's a new release, and it's in the discography. So it doesn't take long to do.
So we should tell people, this isn't your job.
No,
this isn't what you do. This is still a hobby, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So, but how much time do you have to spend on this?
So long as Kim's not listening.
Kim is
my very understanding wife. she well, this is better than me playing golf. She can keep me.
Yeah, at least you don't have to leave to do it.
No, exactly. It keeps me sane. It's a good few hours every week goes into the site in various things. Sometimes it's not all necessarily what you see online. Some of it's just crunching data, or we're scanning stuff at the office. I'm lucky to have my own business, and we've got some very good facilities in my office that enables me to scan 12-inch singles and albums really well, very high resolution, and I can get the images that I really want on the website.
That's great.
And we have like a small area which is all well lit for photography as well. So that really helps to drive, the quality of the stuff that we put into the website. The magazine archive that we have there is nearly 3,000 publications with full scans, which is,
Wow.
it's a phenomenal beast, that part just in itself. We've got a photo library that I have not even begun to properly put into the website yet. It's enormous. It's around about 18,000 photographs that we have that's just not in there.
And there's something else coming later that's exciting that we can't talk about
yet.
That's going to be very exciting.
A very big
I know
that we've been working on.
Yes, there's something big coming, so that's going to be very exciting.
And then
we've got, so Steve, I can see you doing this in your retirement. This will be your retirement job.
I think you're right. We've got a huge memorabilia archive, which I've just been trying to tidy up a bit. And we've got a new way of producing some of the content for that. And we've got the galleries coming together. But just the archives of posters and adverts for all of the bands is huge. We even just a couple of years ago, there was a new Subway poster sort of was discovered that Lawrence had done as a teaser for Love is a Stranger. And it's probably the very first poster, but it was designed to be covered up a week later, so there's probably only a handful of those that ever survived. But that only surfaced a couple of years ago. There's still things that are...
It's amazing what surfaces, huh?
You're right. You're right, though. You're right about that. That things still surface all the time.
Yeah.
That none of us knew existed or had seen. We should say.
Yeah, like those promo Mexican LPs.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're flooded everywhere, and I never saw these things back in the day. It was very
I think they're modern day bootlegs, to be honest with you, Rex. I think they're the original records, but I think that there's probably been a warehouse that's been found with them, and then they've designed a new sleeve to go with them to then sell.
Really, that's interesting.
Because it's happening in Israel as well. There's been some Israeli releases over the last couple of months for Touch and We To Are One, and a few of their albums with black and white sleeves. But inside is the actual original Israeli album release. But it's just, you can tell. Have you seen the Mexican ones before? Because
I've seen them. I've seen them on eBay.
I got in quite early, and I offered a very low price for a whole set to the person selling, and they agreed at the time. And why they agreed, I have no idea. But I have a number of them here.
They're too rich for my blood right now.
But the sleeves are all brand new. The sleeves are all very, very pristine. So it doesn't compute that they were original.
Well, and that goes along with you're seeing people on eBay selling their own singles, but with their own sleeves that they've made. And you see it and you think, oh my gosh, this is a sleeve I've never seen before. And then you realize, no, it's just a bootleg.
Yes. And some of them, at the same time, quality. Some of there's a chap in Greece who's making some amazing in-depth sort of booklet sleeves to go with them. They're stunning items, but obviously,
Sony, you could do the same thing. Sony,
yes, Sony could do the same thing.
Steve, I wanted to tell everybody the website. It's Eurythmics-ultimate.com. That's the the website address for Steve's site. Yeah. And please go check it out. I mean, it's just amazing. And anytime I need to find out something about a release, that's exactly where I go. Pull it up.
I want to say that to both of you, though, how much, you two have, the two fan-based Eurythmics websites that people really, really know. Yeah. Of course, the Ultimate site, Steve's site, and Rex, your site, visit Eurythmics Video Visionaries. I have to say that every time, don't I, Rex? But let's make fun of me. I always say
you don't have to say it every time.
but I mean, I want to tell both of you from a fellow fan how much it means to me that the two of you have put in so much work on these two different websites over the years, and both of you have had these websites for so long. These aren't new websites. You all have been doing these sites for a really long time. Yeah. And, I've known both of you for quite a long time, but, a lot of people don't know you all personally. But man, do they go to your websites. Yeah. And you all have, and just the amount of stuff that's on your site, Steve, that like you said, the magazine articles, the things that you can look up that, there isn't anywhere else to do it. It may be out there on the internet somewhere. You've made this
they brought it all together.
Great and convenient for us. And I just want both of you to know, just from another fan, how grateful I am about that. Yeah. Thank you both.
Well, it's really strange because, a few things have happened during this sort of lockdown process, and, everybody's been, perhaps, people have had a bit more time on their hands to do things. And I've had a number of messages from people who've just said thank you for the Facebook group that we run and for the website, because in these times where they were shut at home, they still felt that they had a bit of a community and there's still people that they could speak to and reach out to, because online was the only place where they could go and reach out. And I had some really, I was struggling with time and the website, and I was at the point where I was thinking, do I really have to continue this? Do I want to continue this? And had decided that perhaps I should just shut the Facebook page down and concentrate on my website, because it was becoming an admin burden to me. But then 7 or 8 people said, "Oh, we'll help admin. We'll help run it." And actually now we have 24/7 coverage now around the world. We've got people in Australia, we've got people in America, we've got people in South Africa, we've got people in Italy and the UK who are monitoring for any of Facebook's alerts where there's a problem. And there's some great new automation tools in that makes our job just that little bit easier. And then obviously with the whole Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nomination that's come through, a month ago today, I think it was, we saw over the 2 to 3 days after the announcement, we had a 600% rise in traffic to the website.
Wow!
I had a lot of rise too. I couldn't believe it. It was nice they gave us the press release, because we're sort of the only ones that have it out there. Yeah, I'm surprised even like the latest issue of Classic Pop magazine in the UK, which is the only really sort of 80s dedicated magazine. I call it Smash Hits for Grown-ups. It's a fantastic publication.
It
really is.
There is no mention of Duran Duran, Kate Bush, or the Eurythmics being nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So there's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't think is really a big thing in the UK. It's not really known. Similarly, I don't think the Brit Awards is particularly well known in the United States. It's only because Eurythmics became, did such an amazing performance that people know about it. But the Brits is not a newsworthy item in the States, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not a newsworthy item in the UK. But
interesting.
The traffic that came to our website was all from around the world. So, there is still a huge community.
This is America. Aren't people interested? This is America. I'm kidding. I'm actually kidding.
We have to be realistic, Rex. We have to be realistic.
Well, Steve,
doesn't the whole world revolve around America? I am joking. Okay.
He's stressing that he is joking.
Yeah.
But Steve, you were, when we decided to do this podcast, we should tell you, we sort of had a small list of, okay, who, in addition to the two of us talking to each other, who would be some of our main people that we would, early guests that we would want to have on. And you, of course, were one of our main people on the list. So we're happy that you're here. You were one of the people we said we have to have Steve on a podcast.
Yeah. I think I could do volume 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with you guys.
I'm pretty sure that you'll be back. Yeah.
That sounds good to me. We can do as many volumes as you want. So speaking of that, I guess we should maybe dive in.
Yeah.
I think Steve just kind of has an assemblage of collectibles that we'll talk about one by one. So Steve, why don't you start, and then we'll just chime in with whatever we think.
So we thought, rather than doing a top 10, we'd perhaps just sort of look at a few different items, and some of them are rare and hard to get hold of. Some of them are still available on eBay at a relatively low price, but there's an interest value to them. And some of them have interesting stories, and so I've got a few bits and pieces down here. So I'm actually going to start with one of the items in my collection, which is probably in most people's collections, but I have a real problem with, and it's the Sex Crime 1984 picture disc. which we all went out and bought. Obviously, you guys can see what I'm about to show you, but can you see how badly discoloured mine has become? It's brown. It's actually completely brown. It's not clear at all anymore. If I take it out of the wrapping, you guys can see possibly just how bad it is. This is one of my favourite picture discs, but it's just not the same that it once was. So I'm scouring eBay at the moment for that item to get a new version of it, because I'm sure there's people that have managed to keep theirs in a better condition than mine.
It makes me want to pull my copy out and see how that one has fared.
My copy is I have two copies, and my main one, both may be, but one of them is brown. So it's interesting. I didn't know if it was just mine that had done that. So it is interesting. So hopefully we can get some comments here on the podcast when we put it out.
As I understand, it's a reaction to the PVC in the sleeve that they're kept in. And I have a Stephen Tintin Duffy picture disc that's the same, and that's in the same type of material, and that's gone brown. So I've recently been upgrading all my sleeves to not the PVC but to polythene, which is slightly opaque and is UV sensitive. So I do archive everything in my collection properly. Everything in the database generates me a little sticker, which I'm just showing to you guys, which tells me where it is in my collection, what sort of date I got it, and it just helps me sort of when I'm flicking through know exactly what each item is. So the archive.
Color me impressed, Steve. You are so organized. That's great.
He has to be. Remember, 6,000.
Yeah,
he has to be organized.
6,259 items, and I have 2,786 records and CDs, cassettes in the collection. I don't think I can take the crown of having the most, though, Rex. Just going back to something you said earlier on, I think there's a couple of other fans who have a larger collection than I do. I've certainly boosted mine recently from a fan who's been selling off some of his collection. I've certainly benefited from some of that.
So yes, speaking of we're not spring chickens anymore. I'm 56, so maybe in about 20 years, if I'm lucky to live that long, I'm probably going to be trying to find a big Eurythmics fan out there, hopefully younger than me,
yes,
that will be willing to take all my stuff, because I don't want to sell it or give it to a record store or something. I'd like it to go to a fan. Yeah. So, hey, younger fans out there, 20 years from now, keep that in mind.
I shall tell a story here, because I was saying this to my wife, Amy, not recently, but at some point. And I said, well, if something happens to me, and I said, so-and-so should get all of my Subway posters. And she said, oh, yes, at the right price.
Yeah, well, I have got some of the key items in my collection, because I am lucky to have a few sort of very, very rare items. My kids know which ones not to gift to the local Oxfam store, and the ones that they need to keep for themselves as their inheritance.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a list somewhere.
Yeah, they're all in the database. They're in the database, the ones that are marked as the key items, so that anytime they can print that list off and know which ones are the ones to not sell or not give away anyway.
So what's your next collectible you want to talk about?
I thought, as we were just doing picture discs, let's go on to, and we were talking about Mexico earlier on, but these are some of my favourite items, which are the 5 coloured picture discs of the Sweet Dreams single that were issued in Mexico. Now, everybody thinks that there's 4, but there is 5, because one of them was also issued as a promo. So most of them, obviously we can see these guys, but most of them have got a standard yellow label in the middle. And I think
colored vinyl, not picture disc.
So these are coloured vinyls, yeah, these ones. So there's 4 standard ones in the standard sleeves that were released. One's red, one is like a dark green, one is a light green, and one is orange. So they're the standard ones. And then there's one which is a promotional one, which it's the same lime green, but is a proper a proper promotional one with the white label.
Ooh, nice.
See, I'm red green colorblind. None of this is helping me. So,
So that's
Really, you are, Mark? I didn't know that.
yes,
that's the one I've called lime green, Mark.
lime green. Okay, all right then. So, wow, that's
Or Mark, as you would know it, key lime pie.
And then
So,
I know you're big on pie.
the dark green one is a very different color. You know, it's a much darker. You can see.
not a lime green, but a darker green. So
Oh, yeah.
all of these were in Mexico.
Yeah, and see this one even has like an RCA inner poly sleeve as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
We should point out to all our listeners that if you want to see what we're talking about, go to Steve's website and just type in the search bar and you'll see them.
Now, are each of those very rare, or are they hard to get on eBay now?
They are now, Mark. There was one recently I think I saw that was sold for over £100. So,
okay.
so they are quite a nice, quite a rarity. It seems to be the green ones you see regularly. You don't see the red or the orange one very often. The promo one comes up from time to time.
I don't think I knew that there was a red or orange. I remember that there was green, and I don't think I have it.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I do not have your great database. I'd have to go dig through a lot of stuff and see. I do remember there was green. I don't think I knew there was red and orange. That's fascinating.
I think I have all four of the colors, but I'm not sure if I was aware there was that fifth promo one.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look. That's interesting.
And I may sound knowledgeable, but I do actually have to look up a lot now. As you rightly said, we're getting into our 50s now, Rex. I used to know a lot of this stuff at the tip of my fingertips, but now I might just have to look that one up just to check.
You know what's funny, and just really quick, when I think back to the 80s and 90s, I remember all the years by like Eurythmics releases, album releases, things like that. As I'm getting older, like if somebody would say to me, okay, what happened in 2014? I'm like, wow, I can't remember anymore, But the 80s and the 90s, wow, I know every year because of, Eurythmics albums that were released, Dave Stewart albums, Annie Lennox albums. So, yeah, we're getting older.
Yeah,
well, that's interesting. I'd never thought about that timeline that we do have, that you're right about that.
I mean, you say 1985, and I immediately think of Would I Lie to You? You say 88, I think of We Have a Place to Chill in My Heart. So, yeah, I have these markers.
Yeah, and I should say as well, it's not just Eurythmics that I collect. Eurythmics is my main collection, but I buy vinyl every week. My record collection is extensive, and it isn't just Eurythmics. Eurythmics is one half of the room, and then most of the rest of my collection is the other half of the room. So there is a lot more than just this. But let's go on to let's have a look at the picture disc. So this is one that a few fans might not be aware of, but this is the Don't Ask Me Why 12-inch picture disc that was issued in the UK, which most people will have, and it's still relatively cheap to buy. So this is the version of the picture disc that most people are aware of, and I'm going to show you a slightly alternate version of it now, which actually has a black rim to it. And the standard one that came out had a clear rim.
Interesting.
So yeah, and this is the fascinating thing about when you really get into collecting, that the subtle differences on sleeves, or like you're talking about now, a picture disc that has a black rim as opposed to a clear rim.
Yep.
And these are subtle differences, but they're really important when it comes to collecting.
It is.
That's right.
So if I show you this Annie one, so this is the one with the clear. I'm going to show you the picture of her now black, which I think actually stands out far more with the whole black ring.
Yes, you're right.
And what is the difference in these? What's the difference in why they're different?
Well, this was an eBay purchase that was not very expensive. It was £5 or £6, if that. But it was somebody who had advertised it as a mispress.
Oh.
And To this day, I don't know. I can't tell you whether that was a mispress or not. But I know that it didn't come in the standard PVC sleeve with the title embossed over the front. It came in a standard black sleeve, which suggested that it never did hit, the sort of the standard release sleeve that we have here with Lawrence's icons on the front. So, it's one of those curiosity items, I would say.
So would you say,
very interesting.
Would you say though that you've not seen that anywhere else then?
No,
that's the only one you know of.
That's the only one I know of. Yeah, but
okay.
But maybe people can go and check their version, and we'll
yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
We'll have a poll and see how many people have got one with because it could just be that it went to 2 different pressing factories. It could be as simple as that or that they overproduced or underproduced in one for the sales, so they needed to press more, and it went to a different production system. Who knows? Don't know. But it's just one of those. And then I've got this one here for you, which is again the finer detail, and I think most fans know the story about the thorn in my side 12-inch single and is it the Houston mix? What is the Houston mix? Does anyone actually know what the Houston mix actually is meant to be? Is it the extended mix that's called the Houston mix, or is it an extended mix and a second mix that's called the Houston mix that never got properly released but got mistagged on the record sleeves? It is so confusing. And I did write an article a few years ago on my website to say, look, this is me playing each of these records, and I have a white label promo on, which is a separate record, which has a totally different mix of the single to the ones that are physically released, even the ones that are marked as the Houston mix. But there was obviously a huge amount of confusion when the record was first pressed, because what I've got here is I've got a UK 12-inch single on the catalogue number DAT8, and on the back of it, it just says, you probably can't see it very clearly, it just says it's the Thorn in My Side extended mix. So if we go to the German version of the same single with the same catalogue number, the only difference being on it is that the German one has a barcode on it, whereas the UK ones didn't. But now, over that bit that says it's the extended mix, we then have a label that's stuck over the print. So it's exactly the same sleeve on the back, but now it says it's the Houston mix, not the standard mix.
Are you saying that it actually has a sticker on it?
It's a physical black sticker. Yeah, I don't know if you. It's a physical black sticker that's correcting whatever's underneath.
But now, is it the same mix that is the standard?
So it's the same mix that's on this one here, which doesn't have the Houston mix written on it. It has extended mix on it. Now, note, I don't know if you can see here on this, but on the UK release for the second track, which is In This Town, there are no credits printed whatsoever for that track. Okay, no credits. Yeah. Go to the German version. So this is how we know that it's probably the same pressing. There's no credits for the second version. However, there is another UK version that doesn't have the sticker over the top because it's already printed, and it says recorded in Houston. But then track 2 all of a sudden has credits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 2 UK releases, which are essentially the same record, but with totally different mixed up rear sleeves. This is the sort of thing I would love to.
It makes you wonder what happened with that particular release.
Yep. No idea. And then we have the white label promo, which is still on the same catalogue number of DAT8. So everything's on DAT8, but it is literally, there's nothing on it. And this was just one of those chance purchases at a record fair. It was a white label promo, and I didn't have it in my collection, and I just assumed it was going to be one of the standard releases. And I played it, and it was like, well, hang on a minute, this isn't the same mix either. So is what is on the white label, which is usually the version that is test pressed, before they go to full press. Is this actually the Houston mix on here? And then it got abandoned because it's a totally different remix. And this is the stuff that we were talking earlier on. People at Sony wouldn't have a clue that existed.
Yeah.
And if they were trying to do any sort of retrospective in the future, they have to reach out to fans for these missing gaps, because they just wouldn't have a clue that these exist. They just wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, so
Right.
So that's
yes. I think fans are going to be very important to Eurythmics' legacy moving forward, or maybe over the next 10, 15 years. You know, because you're right, Steve. I mean, we're the ones that know the thing.
Yeah.
You have the website with all the stuff there. It's all there. Again, Sony, are you listening?
You know, and sometimes people will say things like, well, Dave and Annie should remember that. But they see this from a totally different, you know, we can all think about how you view your whole life. You know, I can't go back in my mind right now and remember everything I've done in my career in different aspects.
Yeah.
But fans like yourself and we are in different, where you've collected these things or where you've bought them and you've played them a million times, you know, we see this on such a different level. We have a different viewpoint on this than even Dave or Annie would in that sense, because this was their career and they were moving on and they were doing these different things and they had so many aspects. So you can't really expect them to, even them, to remember these certain things, because none of us do. None of us remember all the details on certain aspects in our career, and it was their career or is their career.
Yeah.
But that's really fascinating. But I think you're so right, Steve, that it really behooves Sony to sort of reach out to some of these fans. And it's not like, in particular, the two of you who have actual websites, you know, where you could give advice, you could provide information, but that's fascinating that there is this, and I've heard about this for years. We've all heard it, the Houston mix. And of course, that remix was created at a Houston, Texas recording studio while they were on tour, which always in itself was a fascinating story to me that I'm not sure ever really got told back in the day properly. So that was fascinating. But
I think even for Dave and Annie, when you look at the posts that we're doing at the moment for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, we're trying to pick up images from, you know, across their whole career. And you know, you've got to remember, for the bulk of that, that's only 10 years. You know, the bulk of these images are just from a 10-year period. And the difference between 1981, 82 to 1989, which is a very short space of time, really. But creativity-wise, it's such a broad spectrum of styles and concepts, and you know, avant-garde to sort of more sort of accessible images. But it's just fascinating. And how on earth would you expect Dave and Annie to remember who was the photographer at that photo shoot? When was that photo shoot? When did that happen? When did I meet that person? I don't ever remember meeting them at a party. Where even was this party? Which country was it?
Well, Dave even talked about that when he was writing his autobiography, how difficult it was. And, you know, if he hadn't had certain things to kind of remind him, because that's not normal for human beings. You don't catalog that kind of thing. Like the catalog that you have.
I'll give you another little sneak preview of something that's coming on the website very soon. We've just put it into a trial mode. But we've been trying to log all the people that have worked with Dave and Annie over the years. Okay. And so far in the database, we've got 1,100 different names.
Wow.
And this is purely from credits on records at the moment, as opposed to anything else. A few photographers, a few of our key friend photographers, and people like Lawrence, obviously. But you know, that's 1,100 people that are credited across the Eurythmics and Dave and Annie solo catalogs. So that's just people that have been involved with them in recording studios, or you know, in some cases possibly not even met them because they've done post-production work or something. But there's all these people that have had some involvement in their career, and how would you possibly be able to remember everybody? that was involved.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, what's next?
So this is one of my little favourite items actually, and partly because I was at the event itself, which I always, it was always lovely to see Eurythmics in concert. It's always been amazing to see, and sometimes you don't realise the enormity of the event that you're at until it's way past. So I was lucky to be at the Brit Awards when Dave and Annie performed with Stevie Wonder in their Union Jack outfits, and RCA and BMG, as it was then, produced a commemorative version of the Greatest Hits CD, which comes in a lovely little translucent booklet folder. And have you both got this item, guys? Have you?
I have it. Yes,
Mark,
that's one of my favorite collectibles. Yes, Steve.
So in inside, I mean, it follows. I'm assuming that Lawrence was involved in the design of this. Maybe we'll see that as one of his items that he posts on his Instagram feed of sort of unseen artwork. But it's got the translucent page on the inside, like they had on virtually all their tour programs. So that's a sort of signature of some of Lawrence's work. But it's a really nice booklet of biography, of them and their career, and there's a little discography in there, which is sort of, Lawrence's usual way of having a few things in one direction, but you've got to turn it around another way to see it completely. And then at the back is just in a sort of slip sleeve section is the Greatest Hits CD. But this was given to people who were attending the Brit Awards, and then was obviously sent off to journalists afterwards as part of the general PR. But even
so you received one at the Brit Awards.
I got one at the Brit Awards. Yeah, I had one on. I had one on my seat when I sat down, and of course I was looking for more on my way out, but I didn't see a single one. But even down to the detail of a silver sticker with a red star on the back to seal it, I think is just that level of detail that Lawrence always went to in his design work. And
if anyone doesn't know, Steve's referring to Lawrence Stevens, no relation to mine, unfortunately. But Lawrence Stevens, the fantastic designer for Eurythmics work, singles and albums, and Annie as well, and Dave. Such an incredible person. Steve, I did not know that existed. If I did, I had forgotten.
Okay.
I do not think I have that. And so you've told me something today that I didn't know existed.
Excellent.
I don't have any memory of knowing that. I did not know that. And I have to have it now.
It does pop up on eBay from time to time. I think I've seen it go for as little as £20. I think I've seen it go for sort of closer to 70, 75.
Next time you see it, let me know. I don't have it.
The glue that holds it together has yellowed quite a lot on the back. So that's the only thing. But to actually have the envelope in sort of pristine condition is hard to find.
Really nice. Yeah.
It's a beautiful collectible.
So let's go to something that's a little bit more easier to obtain. Let's say, well, certainly the two component parts are easy to obtain. So I'm going to show you the two individual parts. So this was from the Be Yourself Tonight album. So we've got the It's Alright 7-inch single in the white sleeve, and I have got the Would I Lie to You 7-inch single. Now, when Would I Lie to You came out in the UK, it was pressed on 7-inch and 12-inch, and on both formats it was released as yellow, blue and red and black. So we had 8 formats to go out and buy.
For Would I Lie to You?
For Would I Lie to You, yeah. So in the UK, there was 8 different formats for us fans to have to go and spend our money on. But RCA obviously had an overproduction of the coloured vinyl, because then when It's Alright, Baby's Coming Back was released, they actually issued them as a double pack. So you bought the It's Alright, and all of them were issued in the white sleeve version, these double packs, and I've seen a couple on eBay where someone's obviously just replaced the wrong sleeve into the cover, but these were only ever the white version of the sleeve. But you can see they came in with a nice sort of label saying that it's a sort of 2 singles for the price of 1. So it was their way of getting rid of the excess stock, I assume, of the coloured vinyl.
So was it like a gatefold plastic sleeve, or was it just together?
So they are a gatefold plastic. This one, the plastic was damaged. So this one's I've just got the label and stuck it onto another record.
So it doesn't have a "Would I Lie to You" picture sleeve. It's just colored.
It's just the pure colored vinyl.
And every color was re-released with "It's All Right."
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously it was just using them up. So I don't know. There probably wasn't equal quantities. It's whatever that was left over after the production.
I will tell you, I don't think I have these, and I think I made a concerted decision that I wouldn't have them because, again, as we've discussed, I was a teenager in the 1980s and only had so much money. So even when I did find out about them, and it could have been even later, I probably made that decision. Okay, I already have these. Do I have to get them again to complete my collection? So, you had to be, at some point you had to say, am I a completist?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get them?
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here wishing that I did. But,
I think
there you go.
Well, certainly I did. And I think a lot of people in the UK did. We had a huge selection of record shops that we could go to. We had Our Price. And we had HMV, and then obviously in London we eventually had Tower Records. We had Sam Goody that came to the UK as well, and then Our Price merged into Virgin Records, and certainly in London, we had a huge choice of record stores to go to, as well as all the sort of independent stores, the Sister Rays and the Reckless Records, and in Soho and behind Oxford Street. There was literally a road that was just full of record shops. And so a lot of these records that, once they were moving through the charts and were dropping out, you could buy them for 50p or 99p in the bargain bins a week later because they dropped out of the top 40. So, we were able to buy these things for very little money, really. And in hindsight, when you look at some of the prices of records that are being sold today on Discogs and eBay, you just think, wow, I wish I just scooped up armfuls. But it's all relative because although I say 99p today, it was 99p then, which was still, a sum of money. It seems a very small amount today, but, you still were making decisions. Am I going to buy this or am I going to buy that? But I still think that they pop up on eBay from time to time sometimes at a fairly sensible price, sort of in the sort of £10 to £15 mark. You sometimes see them for. But I have seen a set on Discogs once, which was a set of all 3 colour 12 inches and all 3 7 inches. Someone was selling them as a bundle, and they wanted them like £200 for them. So whether they got that or not, I don't know.
Let's talk about something that's connected real quick, if we can. So I've never quite understood. So originally it came out on the white sleeve.
Yeah.
Very sparse. And then, of course, the beautiful sleeve that's the photo taken from the actual video.
Max's video, yeah.
So can you just very briefly kind of run through that for me, how that worked? How long were the white sleeves out before the other sleeve, and were they out at the same time? How did that work?
The other record shop which we used to have on every high street was Woolworths, which was like a home store, from all your cutlery and china, and would be where you could get your DVD or VHS videos, and not DVDs at the time. I know when I went to buy It's All Right, they had both 7-inch single sleeves on the shelf. So I still, to this day, don't know whether the white one was pressed first and then they decided they needed a colour version, and it was by the time I got to the store they had both. I don't know. Maybe that's a question we can run by Lawrence if he knows.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, why even a white sleeve to
Because-
begin with? I mean, why not the picture sleeve?
I'm just checking on the white sleeve now to see if he's actually if he's credited on the white sleeve.
No, he talked to us about it once. He talked to us about it. I don't think we got it in depth on.
No.
On
So the white sleeve was designed by Lawrence. So
yeah, he talked about it that he did, and it was. I think he talked about his very signature minimalist look. But then we went. But I don't know that we got very in depth on it. I think that's part of why I wanted to ask you.
And maybe the video wasn't ready at the time when the sleeves were being pressed, and they couldn't get the still from the video in time, possibly, but they needed to get the single out. That's something.
We should quickly mention that our sites have a very in-depth interview with Lawrence Stevens that we did a few months back. Was it 4 parts or 3 parts? Four parts. Part 2, I believe, is on Steve's site. The rest are on mine, Video Visionaries. So go and check that out because he talks a lot about the different designs and sleeves and all that.
It's fascinating. And people should follow him on Instagram because he is showing so many items from his archives, not just used Eurythmics work. He's just posted a Shakespeare's Sister promo 12-inch single cover that was never used the last couple of days. He shared some amazing work from his time working on Eurythmics catalogue. So follow him. He's LSD_studio. Is it LSD_studio? We'll check. We'll make sure that we've got that for the end.
Mark and I are both looking on our phones.
It might have.
But anyway, what's your next?
Right, so I've got a quirky cassette here for you. So cassettes are a weird one, aren't they? Really. So cassettes in the UK last year had their highest sales for something like 22 years. They seem to be the limit.
Yes, cassettes are having a resurgence.
They seem to be the limited edition version of albums these days, and I guess we should say in a couple of months' time. Dave Stewart's new album is coming out, his box set for his musical Ebony McQueen, which is all about his life. But contained within the box set are 2 cassettes. And on the cassettes are alternate versions of the records that are on the main album. So, even Dave's gone retro for the new album.
Well, a lot of current artists are selling cassette versions of their new albums. So I knew vinyl was back. I didn't realize cassette was back in such a way.
Coldplay's recent album, they did a cassette box set. So every cassette had 2 tracks on it, and you had to buy 5 to make the album, and each was a different color, and then stacked together, sort of made the picture of the album cover. Really sort of nice item, but of course you could argue it's to exploit the fans because they bundle everything together and sell it for 160 quid and you get everything. So but cassettes, I've never been a huge fan of cassettes. I never really was, and obviously collected all the cassette singles as they came out, the ones we knew about, of course. They're
Single.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Single, and obviously they came in so many different versions. Where some had the sort of cardboard slip sleeves, and some came in the standard plastic. They were just horrible to store because they just never really, and it was hard to sort of keep them alphabetical order or whatever order you wanted. So they were never a huge thing for me, but. I have to confess, I have been buying some of Ross's cassettes that he's been selling in Australia. I would say that he possibly had the largest collection of Eurythmics cassettes of any collector I know. And there's a few sort of interesting ones that he had, which I've purchased from him. I guess there's a few which I'll just mention, but. I think possibly one of the most collectible cassettes from Australia is the Beethoven cassette single, only country that had that issued as a single on cassette there. There's obviously the sisters doing it for themselves cassette single in a purple sleeve that was issued in the UK. Where in the UK exactly? Only a few people know because so few of them exist, but one of the guys on our forums.
I believe I have that, Steve. I have that purple one.
You do, yeah. So that
I don't have the Australian Beethoven, but I do have that Sisters purple. I didn't realize it was so rare.
You've probably got the rarest cassette single.
Really?
Yeah. I would say more so than the Right by Your Side, the Satellite of Love, the freebie that came with Right by Your Side single. Step on the Beast. I think you would find that if you were to decide to auction that Sisters cassette single, you would be looking at a 4-figure sum.
So this is truly a cassette single. The Sisters are doing it. It's truly a cassette single. It's the single on.
Yeah, I'm yet to ever actually hold one, see one. There's a chap on our Facebook forum who has one in the UK, and he bought it in the UK from his local store.
1985 would have been very early. Cassette singles really weren't a thing in 1985.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sort of 87, 88, 89 started. Yeah, that is so fascinating. Yeah. But I've seen that before where people have talked about it.
Yeah.
So I may be wrong, but I think the first cassette single I saw, for anything Eurythmics related, might have been for Put a Little Love in Your Heart.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That might have been the first time.
Chill in My Heart would have been Chill in My Heart and I Need a Man. That would have preceded Put a Little Love, right?
No, that was before Savage.
That would have been
Was it?
It'd be 88 for. Yeah, listen, look at us. Our ages are showing now, aren't they?
There are fans out there going, hey, they're wrong.
That's fine. I'm happy to be correct.
We just explained this a few minutes ago. Our brain works perfectly trying to go backward.
So that
just go, Put a Little Love with
a website doesn't mean it's all right, I mean, hey, look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia's not exactly right on everything, is it?
No, we do the best we can.
Exactly.
So what else? What else do you have?
I've got 2 cassettes that I am going to talk to you about.
Okay.
And one of them actually I didn't even know existed, to be honest with you. So I unfortunately was never a member of the Eurythmics fan club.
Steve,
it was purely financial, to be honest with you. My mum and dad worked very hard, and it's just one of those things that never happened. I think I've probably got everything that the fan club subsequently did. It's taken many years to do, but they did issue this cassette, and I've not seen another one of these before. I know they advertised it, and it was on one of their sheets for people to order. But this was a cassette compilation of every single one of the flexi discs that they gave.
Yep.
But by all accounts, this is actually a very, very hard cassette now to purchase. And
I have that. Wow.
I think I have that too. Yeah,
I'm sure you do, Rex. Yeah.
Well, I would like to think that obviously everyone in the fan club did actually go and buy one, which is why it made it hard for anyone else to get one.
I think I got mine later on eBay or something. I didn't get it from the fan club, and I didn't join the fan club until '87. So, and I felt like, wow, I'm a latecomer. So
I remember when the fan club talked about it, that they'd done it and they had put them all on cassette. I remember that. I had no idea that. Well, I would know. I mean, anything from the fan club at this point would be fairly rare because there were only so much. I don't remember, the fan club, had certain T-shirts you could order and different things. Again, going back to what Steve said, as a young person, there was only so much money to go around.
Yes.
And so I didn't get a lot of the stuff that the fan club would sell. And you don't see any of that stuff on eBay. I do a regular search. If they would have different things. I often do a regular eBay search. I don't find any of the stuff from the fan club.
No.
So I hadn't really thought about that. So
I've
just a lot. Yeah.
I've just been looking through my paper archives, which I can show Mark and So these are all the binders of various things that are going on here in the archives. That's some of the paper stuff. But I do have a fan club binder here, which is full of all of the. Hold it this way. So it's got all the Christmas cards and the photos and the various letters that were sent. I mean, it's just there you go. It's just tons of it. And I'll be honest with you, this is something that has happened over the last couple of years as well. I'm not going to mention any names on this, but there are some fans who have been wanting to, for various reasons, move their collections on, just like you were talking about earlier on, Rex. And I've been sent stuff because it's not in the archives, it's not scanned, it's not on the website, and people have just donated it to me and said, put it on, get it on there. I've had scrapbooks donated to me from people. They're childhood scrapbooks that we've now digitized, and they are online. They're part of our website, and I think they're just as equally part of Eurythmics history because it shows the personal impact that Eurythmics have had on people's lives and how they've put together these. But you can see this is just tons and tons of stuff that came.
Yeah. I have such fond memories of the fan club. I mean, and we should mention that Dave Stewart's ex-wife actually was in charge of the of the fan club.
Yeah,
and she wrote me several. I would write her, or you would write the fan club, and she would write you back personally. I still have them. And
me too.
Remember that? It was so cool. I mean, and it was so important because. Clearly we did not have the internet at that point. This was a lifeline, to find out, okay, how do you find out more about this, the band and other fans?
Yep.
So, I don't think I realized how valuable in the sense of a collectible that cassette would be.
Yeah.
But if I thought about it for just a second, it would certainly, you would know that it should be.
It becomes obvious. Yeah.
What's your other cassette you wanted to mention?
So it's got to be the Step on the Beast cassette that came with the. Now, so my sleeve. This is the original. This is the original PVC, but you can see it's shredding. The cassette has never been played in this one. I have 3 copies of the cassette. So this was a Step on the Beast cassette single that was given away free with the Right By Your Side 7-inch single. It was shrink wrapped, and there's a purple hype label that goes on the front. But what I wanted to talk about was the actual cassette itself. So there were 2 versions of this cassette that came out, and it's the version that is with the picture sleeve and comes in the plastic case. But there is actually a second version of this cassette that comes with a paper label. Not a printed label like the standard one comes with. And it's taken me quite a long time to actually work out the reason for the paper label. The paper label version actually has 2 paper labels on it. There's the first paper label is actually correcting a spelling mistake on the first cassette. The second paper label is then correcting the spelling mistake on the second label. And the second label actually didn't need to be there. The first label didn't need to be in the first place because the original spelling was correct in the first place. And it was all, and it was all around the word Eurythmics. So are you saying if you peel off the second label, the first one's correct? Yes.
Wow.
Okay. I have both versions of the cassette. I have the one with the label, which I've never peeled off.
Yep.
Wait. Now, how did you find that out? That's what I want to know. How did you find out if I take this label off, it's correct?
Yeah. So I just through work we had a. This is going back a long time ago now. We had a special spray. It was like a glue removing spray, but it would turn something translucent. So I applied just a tiny bit of this to the label to see what happened, and it was all revealed to me.
I love. Okay, I love that science has come into Eurythmics collecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very. And that cassette that I have that has the two labels.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the picture sleeve with it.
No, it doesn't. It's on its own.
I have the one with the sleeve that doesn't have. So fascinating.
Yeah. So
I might have that second one. It's so familiar to me. As I get older, it's like, do I have it, or am I just used to seeing it places? Like on your site or somewhere? And it's like, I don't know, but yeah, that's really interesting.
Rex, are you learning things today like I am? I mean, you've already told me, 2 or 3 things that I did not know about, and I've always considered myself a fairly knowledgeable collector. And that's the fascinating thing about these, that there's so much to, and then you move on with life and you're like, okay, you don't remember that, but okay, Steve, what's next?
Okay, so we spoke about this briefly earlier on, but this is it's probably one of my favorite items in my collection. It's very hard to get this in mint condition today, but the We2R1 promotional box set, which back in 1989 was commanding prices as high as sort of £200 in the collector's market. Certainly in some of the London stores, Steve Sounds in Soho, Music Exchange in Notting Hill, they were wanting £200 for this particular item.
Now, it's Canadian, correct?
No, there's 2 versions, Mark. There is a UK version and there is a Canadian version. So
are they basically the same?
They are essentially the same. It's just the cassette inside is slightly different, I believe.
And I've got the Canadian one because I can. It's a videotape, correct?
That's it.
So I can play it. So
yeah,
I have and so I don't. I have no memory. I don't know what I paid for it. Do you have it, Rex?
I do have it. I'm not sure if I have the Canadian one or the UK one or even both.
Okay.
I think I was able to watch the video, so I must have the Canadian.
Yeah, you probably do.
So for people who've not seen it before, it's a like double VHS size box. It's in white card, which is really hard to keep pristine and clean. So it's normally in my display cabinet. I have managed to basically keep this one in a fairly good condition. You do see them quite tatty on eBay, but if it's something you haven't got and you're happy to overlook that, you can buy them now for as little as £20, but you'd be looking at £40 or £50 to get one in a sort of decent condition. But I just love the sort of the whole unboxing experience, that we've got so used to with our technology and Apple, and the magic 7 seconds of the vacuum of the box opening and revealing the contents, because that gives you the maximum amount of passion for the product inside. But this is like the little box that keeps on giving, because you open it up and you've got the VHS inside, and then you've got another little box with another little flap on it to open, and then inside that you've got your Eurythmics sort of release statement and the little fold-out tour calendar that's on the inside, which is lovely. Then you've got the CD, but that's inside another little sort of canvas sleeve to protect it, and then you've got the cassette inside the box, which is the syndicated interview, basically. So that's what was sort of could be sent to radio stations to be used as an interview to be broadcast, with fake questions, if you like, with Dave and Annie answering. But I just think it's a lovely item, and today it's relatively cheap for people to get hold of a copy in a relatively good condition.
It was not.
We want to point out all of these things can be seen on Steve's site. Unfortunately, we're not doing a video podcast, so we can't show you all these. But just go to Steve's site. I just want to bring up something. We were talking about the how you can't find that particular collectible in good condition. I wanted to bring up the King and Queen of America cigar box.
Yeah.
And at the time, so many of them the covers were warped.
Yeah.
And I tried, I bought multiple copies trying to get one that wasn't warped. And I think finally I did. But was that a fairly common thing with it warping, Steve?
I think so. I think it was quite cheap wood, if I'm honest with you. I don't think it was.
And some came with a clasp, and some did not.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
I'm assuming the clasp came second after I suspect record stores said we can't deal with this thing.
it was not a friendly item to put on the shelves either.
So I have one here that's I've never even opened because I finally got it. In good condition, so I won't even open it. But
well, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the box has lasted better than the I Need a Man tin. I think everybody's tin has tarnished.
It is. Isn't that sad?
Yeah. I have tried to polish one up, but it just doesn't. It doesn't want to do anything.
I tried to unwarp the lid of the King and Queen by subjecting it to steam and all this kind of stuff. I read about how to straighten out wood. None of it worked.
So as you mentioned, King and Queen of America, Rex, it would only be appropriate to talk about the King and Queen of America presidential 7-inch sleeve.
Yes.
And I guess I can give you my story on how I came to own the single.
Okay.
And a little bit of the story as I understand it, as to how it even existed. I have been desperately trying to find out more about the design of the single because it wasn't done by Lawrence. This is one of the few Eurythmics sleeves that is not a Lawrence Stevens design. And to be fair, the company who are behind it no longer exist. It was a company called T&CP Associates that were based in Paddington in London and in Hollywood. So, but I did a bit of investigative work and I tracked down the two people who used to be the owners of the company and emailed them both and just said, do you know anything at all about this single? And neither of them had any recollection of what was going on. But interestingly, one of the guys actually designed the piano used in Dave's Spiritual Cowboys records, where he's sat and it's all branded as Spiritual Cowboys. He actually did that. So it was quite interesting talking to him about that project. But I really wanted to get some answers on this, but he didn't. Neither of them were able to help me. They did put me in touch with a couple of people who worked in their studios at the time, but it unfortunately has come to a sort of dead end. So the familiar sleeve that everybody knows is all the different caricatures of Annie and Dave as, spacemen, as president and president's wife, and the people shopping and the game show hosts. It's an amazing sleeve. It's they must have had such
was done by Lauren.
Yeah, that's right. So they must have had such fun doing it all. But and I just wonder if my thinking always was, well, maybe they just got the Hollywood office to design something different for the American version of the single, but it was released in the UK. This is the bit that there's always really frustrated me, and with finding out more, because the 7-inch single is the UK catalogue number. It's a UK pressing. I don't know if do either of you guys own the sleeve? Have you both got it?
I've never been able to find it. I'm on the lookout for it, but no.
Yeah. So I've got it in my hand here. This is probably one of the prize Eurythmics items in my collection, really. The story, as I had heard, was that it had been pressed and was distributed into the chart return shops in Oxford Street, and that basically meant HMV and Virgin and a couple of the smaller stores. And what the chart return shops were the stores that, when the barcode was scanned, it went towards the sales figures for the charts. And not every record shop in the UK contributed to the charts. But what happened was that the on the road reps would know which stores had the barcode scanners for the chart returns. So they would be visited regularly by the reps, who would dump all the different versions of picture discs and CDs and would offer them sort of buy one, get one free deals to get the stock into the store. And they would pre-price everything at 99p because they wanted people just to sit on the shelf and buy it. And and I used to know which were the chart return shops in London, and I used to go and buy loads of records. I think one of my biggest successes was I bought every Guns N' Roses picture disc for 99p, and when I came to sell them, I was selling them for over £150 each. And they still had the 99p label on them. But this was what London was like. And other cities around the UK that had the chart return stalls. And the story is that the single was distributed to HMV and Virgin on Oxford Street by the reps, and it had all been printed and pressed, and it was all out there. And then somebody at head office realised that it had gone out with the wrong sleeve, and the reps were told to recall all the product as quickly as they could because the wrong version had been distributed. So someone somewhere had made the decision that the sleeve was pressed as the presidential sleeve and not the standard sleeve. And as I understand that, when this type of thing happens, it happens with loads of artists even today. Sleeves get withdrawn, they become highly collectible because most of them get destroyed because that's the instructions of the record company. However, what also happens is that they get exported, and this particular single was exported to Australia, which is why this particular sleeve does pop up in Australia from time to time, because it hit the export boxes and it was too late to recall it. And that I guess links back then to how I came to own this record in about 1997, because I bought a collection from somebody in Australia, and I don't know who it was. It certainly wasn't any of the fans that we know in our community today. And it was literally just like lots and lots of Australian pressings and releases. And I bought about 60 records from this person in Australia. And the box arrived, and I was going through the box, and this single popped out. I had no idea that I'd even bought it.
Were you aware of its existence before you saw it?
I was aware that it existed, but I was yet to know anybody who had one. So it was the fable, if you like, at the time. It's yes, it's out there, but who's got one? No one knows. So when I actually calculate it all back, I paid 50p for the record. If I average out what I spent that day on that collection, then it cost me 50p.
And wasn't there someone very recently, then they posted on your Facebook page, Steve, wasn't there someone very recently who also bought this in some used record store for next to nothing?
It was actually one of our members of our community, and somebody.
Do you remember who?
I don't know if it's right to say their name, Mark. So I'll they will reveal themselves if they want to. But
I think he did on the Facebook page, didn't he?
But it was on Discogs. It was on sale on Discogs, so anybody could have bought it. However, if you have it tagged on your watch list, and you get your email from Discogs, and you're at the right time, and you see it come in, I think it was £8.
Oh, okay, £8. Okay, but not 50p, but £8. Okay.
but today you would be probably getting this in a mint condition. You would be looking at least £1,000.
I was offered the single not very long ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, for $1,500 or $1,000. I don't remember, one of those, which I turned down at the time. I'm like, no. Yeah, 8p, yes, or not 8p, £8.
Yeah. So I think it's probably the most collectible 7-inch single that you could possibly have, and
possibly the most confusing in trying to because we did ask Lawrence Stevens about it. Yeah. His guess about it was that it was a U.S. sleeve that, but again, I think you're right on. But this was a British.
Yeah. Because the back of it is all UK catalogue numbers, UK barcoding systems. It's printed in England. It's printed on it. It's printed in England. So It's just one of those anomalies, I think. So I've just got one more thing, I think, to show you.
Okay.
Which is something that.
Wait, Steve, before you go to that, can I just ask? I want to ask you a question real quick. One of the hardest 7-inches that I ever could, it took me forever to find, and it was so hard, was the 7-inch of Tous les garçons et les filles, with that scribbled writing on it.
Yes.
Is that rare? Because it was so hard for me to find.
Yeah, I think you could say it's certainly in the top 10 rarities, Rex.
Okay,
Just because it was released in such a small quantity in Canada, that's what makes it so hard to be able to get.
Yeah, I think my partner Dave gave it to me as a Christmas present one year, and I think he paid like $150 or something, and that was like, oh my God, $150, and now that like nothing.
Yeah, I know, and it's it's when you get to our age, you sort of memories and buying days out and experiences is what we really want to spend our money on. But every now and again, there's something that you go, you know what, I really want that, and it doesn't matter what the price is going to be because you really want it,
right?
A couple of the items that have always evaded my collection so far. There's a French box set of one of Dave Stewart's 7-inch singles of Jack Talking, and it's a promotional set, and it's a really lovely fold-out box. Never seen it. I've seen it on eBay. I've seen it on EIL.com, but after it's sold, I've never seen it. I've never seen the real copy of that, and that's something that I would love to have in my collection. Because it's one of the few Spiritual Cowboys items I don't have. But what are the chances of it coming up now? I really don't know. So
wow.
So this last item is I don't know whether many people are going to know this one. Actually, it's not my last item. I've got one other. I just wanted to. I know we've name checked Lawrence quite a few times actually, but probably the most recent. Proper Eurythmics release that we had was the 1984 album that was remastered for Record Store Day. And there were two versions of it. There's a UK version and there's a US version. And there are some sort of subtle differences between the two. But I know Lawrence was really excited to actually finally get his hands on the design for the 1984 album because he wasn't asked to do it originally. And he was able to put his Eurythmics stamp on it, and he was able to get his, the star icon in it, and he sort of was able to sort of redo the sleeve. But what I particularly like is the US version. Okay, so I've got the UK version, which is here. But the thing that I find I love about the American version is that the American version is on the RCA label, and the UK version is on Virgin label. And to me, this sort of felt like it was the 1984 album finally coming home and being on the right label that many of us have felt it should be. So for me, actually just seeing RCA on the logo for the album 1984 is the reason why I bought the American version of Record Store Day. And it's on lovely. It's on lovely heavy red vinyl as well. I sort of really like that release.
And and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful and it sounds wonderful. I'm gonna have to look out for that UK version.
And then
I may even have it. I need to go back and I just need to look.
And the redesign of the photography on the inner sleeve by Lawrence is all subtle changes, it's subtle differences, but it's his design eye that he's brought back to that record, and he sort of finally got it. And obviously he got the opportunity to redo the piece, or to do the Peace album for the first time on vinyl, and he did tell me in a separate conversation just what a thrill that was for him to sort of have done every album now for the Eurythmics. He'd been involved in so some of the more recent things, but still to be asked to come and do it was a thrill for him.
Right. Yeah, so good for him.
So this is my last item, and a lot of fans are going to have this. This is the Eurythmics box set from 2005. This one's
that's so sweet, Steve.
This one's very special to me because this was left to me by Norma in her will, and this is her box that was signed by Annie. and you can see the lovely style that Annie's written or drawn in the box there. It's a lovely, lovely item. And obviously, for most of us hardcore collectors and fans, the CDs inside gave us new artwork and new sleeve notes that we hadn't sort of seen before, exposed us to some fantastic images that were new to us or were slight variations on ones that we had known before. And obviously, alongside that, you've got the box set with the 8 albums in, but the 8 albums were also available to purchase separately. So you could buy them in the United States, and you could buy them in the United Kingdom, and you could buy them in Canada. And the Canadian pressings are different to the UK and the United States pressings. And then in Japan, they took the United States pressings and put an OB wrap on the sides. But the difference is this. So I'm going to show you a UK version and an American version, and all of the albums are like this. So the UK versions of the CD are basically a matte sleeve, and the United States versions are full gloss,
Right.
completely full gloss. So very, very different. And even if I show you the back of the sleeve, the layout of the back is quite different. So this is the American version, and this is the UK version, where we even have a barcode on the back, which we don't have on the US version. But does anyone realise that the layouts on the inside are completely different? They're totally different. And
Really?
yeah. So I'm showing you the American version, guys, which is basically a picture of Annie on the Annie and Dave with one of the Gerard Mankiewicz's photographs. The CD in the middle with Peter Ashworth's in the garden photo behind, and then we have another one of I think that's a Peter Ashworth photo as well on the left. So that's the American layout, not what the UK layout is at all on these CDs. The UK layout is Annie and Dave, and then the CD on the far right-hand side. So where was that decision made? That
Right.
that actually, and was Lawrence involved in having to create 2 entirely different versions of the sleeve for whatever reason? Because I can't see any real reason to why this would have happened. But it's the same. All of the CDs are the same. The UK ones are all with the CD on the far right-hand side, and all the American CDs are in the centre. And I'd say that the CDs, the actual packaging, the UK packaging is bigger than the American version. It's just ever so slightly larger all round. But I just find those anomalies I love. Is that, why?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I believe I have a both versions of the box, and I believe I did notice those differences, but I'd forgotten all about it. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's really cool.
And it's even when
we have to ask Lawrence about that.
Even like on the UK version, the booklet sits behind the first panel, but on the American version, the booklet is not even is here. It's behind the third. It's behind the third panel.
Yeah.
So the whole design has been totally changed for the different markets, and this is the sort of finer detail of collecting, I guess. It doesn't matter what it is you collect. I don't consider myself a completist because I know it's not a feasible thing to do, but I like to collect things that are just a bit different or a little bit unusual,
Exactly.
and little quirks like this are the things that I go, yeah, that's really cool. I like that. But why?
Yeah.
And this is the sort of stuff that Dave and Annie would never know about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. Right.
They would never know that. It's a decision that's being taken by somebody totally outside of their sort of sphere and control, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So look, that's a walk through some of the items which I just thought, I didn't want to just do a top 10 of things that I thought were the most collectible. Just some things that have got perhaps some interesting stories behind, and
I think it worked out wonderfully.
Yes, that's been very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. Like I said, you had things there that I did not know about, or if I did, I had forgotten. But really interesting. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Yeah. Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us for, it looks like an hour and a half. So we're going to have a nice podcast here to share. Again, I want to mention, to see all of these images, go to Steve's site, eurythmics-ultimate.com. You can see them all there. And thank you, Steve. We'll have to do another podcast about collectibles at some point, because I think we can talk about this all day long.
Yeah, we could do a memorabilia one as well, because we have a whole memorabilia archive going on here as well.
It might be fun to even get some fans involved, fans with scrapbooks and stuff, you know.
Yeah. And if anyone,
before we end the podcast, I want to remind everybody to vote in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame daily until April 29th. You can find links to voting at Steve's site, my site, on all the Facebook pages. It's everywhere. So please vote. They're in the top 5. They're holding steady. I'm really impressed at how steady they're holding.
And we were, and Eurythmics, I think yesterday surpassed 30,000 votes ahead of number 6, which is still Judas Priest.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that every 2 days or 3 days that they continue to go over another 1,000 level.
Yes.
And it's very interesting to see that. I'm very anxious. I'm very hopeful about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have found myself late at night remembering, like, you didn't vote, and running to the computer.
Every morning with my morning coffee, I do it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
So if they get in, all 3 of us will see each other in Cleveland later this year. I'm sure.
I hope so. Knock on wood.
The way I'm doing it is when the post goes out, I check it on my Instagram feed that the post for the day that we've done has gone out, and then I use the link to make sure the link works. So that's then when I vote.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I always worry about that too. I like, let's hope the links work, and I test them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Mark, did you want to say something else?
I just wanted to say thanks again to Steve, and always nice to see you. I've met you in person twice now, but good to see you here. Yeah, of course, this is a podcast audio. We're seeing each other at the moment, how we're recording this, but it is always nice to see you.
Yes. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure, guys. It's been really enjoyable chatting to you both.
Thank you, Steve. We really appreciate it. And we'll have you back soon, and we'll talk about this stuff again. All right. Thank you.
Excellent.
Bye.
Right. Do you want me to